Welcome back to Under the Knife. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about dead men's teeth. It probably won't come as a surprise that people from the past suffered from tooth decay the same as we do today. But early forms of toothpaste and tooth powders often did more harm than good because they were made from pulverized charcoal, salt, and brick. The toothbrush as we know it today with its nylon bristles was not invented until 1938. However, early forms of the device have been in existence since 3000 BC. Ancient civilizations used a chew stick, which was a thin twig with a frayed end, which was rubbed against the teeth. The bristle toothbrush, similar to the type used today, was invented in China at the end of the 15th century. The bristles were made from the stiff, coarse hairs taken from the back of a hog's neck and attached to the handles made of bone or bamboo. One of the most famous examples still in existence belonged to Napoleon Bonaparte and is now housed at the Wellcome Collection in London. Most of us have had cavities in our lives, and some of us are even old enough to have had them filled with a mixture containing mercury. In earlier periods, however, filling a cavity wasn't an option. The only option when a tooth began to rot was to have it pulled, without anesthetic. In the 18th century, the tooth key was the preferred tool for pulling teeth. The claw was placed over the top of the decaying tooth. The bolster, or the long metal rod, was placed against the root. The key was then turned, and if all went well, the tooth would pop out of the socket. Unfortunately, this did not always go to plan. Often, the tooth shattered as the key was turned and had to be plucked from the bleeding gum tissue piece by piece. The loss of a tooth wasn't just painful, it could leave a person aesthetically challenged. Wealthy patrons were increasingly unhappy to go around in public with missing teeth. As a result, surgeons began to experiment with teeth implants beginning in the 18th century. Patients who could afford it might choose to have a live tooth implanted. In this case, the recipient would have his or her rotten tooth removed before a selection of donors, who would then have their own healthy teeth extracted until one was found that was deemed acceptable in appearance. Afterwards, the tooth was inserted into the empty socket and fixed using a silver wire or silk ligatures. As desirable as it was to have a live tooth implanted into one's mouth, it could be a costly endeavor. Compounding the problem was the fact that surgeons were unintentionally transmitting diseases like syphilis into patrons' mouths from infected donors. Because of this, a market for dentures arose. These were typically made out of ivory or animal bone, and they incorporated the teeth from executed criminals, exhumed bodies, and even slaves. When the first president of the United States was inaugurated in 1789, he only had one remaining tooth left in his mouth. Dr. John Greenwood, a dentist from New York and former soldier in the Revolutionary War, fashioned a set of dentures from hippopotamus ivory using gold wire springs and brass screws to hold together several human teeth that he had procured from the mouths of slaves. There was even a hole left for George Washington's one remaining tooth. Although contraptions like this were cumbersome and painful to wear, the demand for dentures grew as tooth decay became more common with the import of sugar and tobacco. To keep up with the demand, practitioners needed access to young, healthy teeth in large quantities. That opportunity presented itself with the Battle of Waterloo in 1815. Waterloo teeth, as they became known, referred to any teeth stolen from the mouths of dead soldiers in the 19th century, and was a term even employed during the Crimean and American Civil Wars. Body snatchers followed armies into battle and returned home with bagfuls of teeth, which they then sold to dentists and surgeons for a very high premium. Indeed, the practice was so common that one professor of anatomy at Trinity College remarked,
"Very many of the upper ranks carry in their mouths teeth which have been buried in the hospital fields."
All I can say is that I'm really happy to be living in the 21st century. No!
Lovely, lovely, lovely. Oh, lovely gnashes, Lindsay. I do love American teeth. I bet these weren't cheap.